Record and say it again.
Yeah.
We're live now.
What day is this, Jeff?
Mother's Day. Oh, no, you caught me.
Lover's Day.
Valentine's Day. Hey, it's kind of a neat day for the three of us to get back together.
Yeah, I would hug you guys if I could.
Heck yeah.
Virtual hug. Yeah, totally. So it's also Ash Wednesday, which is a trip.
Is it?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm Catholic. You know this.
Are we supposed to be like repentant on this day? I don't know Catholic stuff.
Okay, so today it's the day that Jesus, let me see, did he die? No, something happened to him. It was not good.
Before Easter, so he hasn't.
Today is 40 days, so it's the beginning of Lent right now.
So you give something up, right? It's about, yeah.
Yeah. So I've given up. I don't know what you guys have given up, but I've given up being imperfect.
That's a good one.
That's a big one for you, Mick. I mean,
I just decided to maintain perfection for the next 40 days.
Wow, perfection at its best.
At its best. And look at these people back here that are in my
huge
hat.
That's a good backdrop. It's way better than my Home Depot box of wood that I bought this morning and stapled up with my nail gun.
Dude, it looks good.
Yeah, this is one day. I got all this stuck this morning because I was like, oh, hell, I got to do a webinar. So I better make it look a little better than bare studs.
It looks really
cool. Yeah, cool. So
let's get up to speed here. We're getting the band back together. We're going to go on tour here soon. Make a worldwide splash.
Well, so
it resonated with Fletch like yesterday, right? It just hardened into some kind of hard reality yesterday.
There was something about it. There was something about it. So, Mick, I want to hear about you, dude. Okay, so you got news.
I got some good news. So I'm sitting in the conference room of Beyond Words Publishing, which is the publisher of my book series, which it's called the Three Realms series, which will be, the first book will be called Timekeepers, and it's going to be published September. That's a soft date right now, sometime September 2018.
So real quick, we have always started these in the past with a little introduction, if I'm not mistaken. We let you introduce yourself. Should we start there again?
Okay.
Before you go, no one's going to know who you are, and then at the end we're going to be like, who's that weird guy that was on that fucking show? Because we don't know who you are yet.
Yeah, okay. So my name is Mick Petersen, and I am an international best-selling author. My passion is to write, and so there you go. I love personal development, and I love hobnobbing with people that have figured out how to live successful lives, and as Fletch here taught me, seeking truth. That's kind of what I do. And so when this is crazy, in Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, he talks about experts in any field. It takes them about 10,000 hours, which is equivalent to 10 years of hard work before they can be considered masters. So in September, specifically September 13th, 2008, I had a dream. I was at a very low point in my life. A 15-year relationship had ended. I had a whole bunch of rental property, and I had evicted all the losers that were living there, and did all this renovation. And my job is as a flight attendant. And in order for me just to make the minimum payments, I was flying like crazy. So I'm juggling all this stuff. And I tacked on a Mexico City turn out of Houston. And a turn is where you go to a place and come back. And my goal was to get back, drive to Galveston Island, which is an island off the coast of Texas near Houston, where I would then board up everything because Hurricane Ike was bearing down on my little island. It was the bullseye, this massive storm that engulfed the entire Gulf of Mexico. I landed in Mexico City, and this gate agent got on and said, okay, get your stuff. You're going to the hotel. I was like, no, I'm going back. I have to go back because of the hurricane. He said, oh, you're grounded because of the hurricane. The plane's not going anywhere, so you might as well get off the plane. So I remember feeling distraught. Like my properties are all vulnerable. And I go to the hotel, and I remember that night writing in my journal, all is lost. And then I was laying there in bed in this terrible hotel where there's no internet. There was no television except for CNN International, so they don't talk about the United States or what's happening with the hurricane. So I didn't have any information. I just assumed the worst. And I thought, there's got to be something better. I'm just hitting my head against the wall. There's got to be something better. What would I really like to do? And I thought about how I always had wanted to write. I wanted to be a writer. And I had this intense dream that I woke up from just, and it was this whole concept of timekeepers and the three realms. And the three realms are the land, sky, and water realms. And in each realm, there's a steward. You have angels, and you have merfolk, and you have landlings, and those three realms, the stewards are who they are because of their consciousness, their ability to manifest wings and fly, or manifest tails and swim and go very deep. It's all about what happens up here. And it's kind of, there's a lot of metaphors in that. And then landlings think that the other two are just myths. So I was introduced to this, and I thought about it for 3 years as I rebuilt my life and my world. And so one thing after another, and I'm going to go back a little bit farther. In 2006, I think it was December 2006, the big craze for the book The Secret introduced me to personal development. I didn't know anything about it. And so then I watched the movie of it, and I watched it over and over and over, and I realized, oh my gosh, I must be insane because I keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. So I thought I got to change my life. So I started adjusting things slowly. So now let's fast forward to 2011. I sat down and I wrote out the shitty first draft. That's what writers call their first go at getting the ideas out of their head and onto the paper. And my goal was to do 50,000 words in 1 month, so 1,666 words a day. That was the goal. Just sit down and stream of consciousness, get this out. And then I had no idea what to do with it. So I went to a couple of editing workshops, and then in 2014, I went to a Bob Proctor seminar. And I remember that he was in The Secret, and I thought, oh, I got to go see this guy and hear what he has to say. And I went there, and from there, my life has completely changed because I decided to hire him as a mentor. And then also I was introduced to Peggy McCall. They call her the bestseller maker, and she's one of the Masters of Possibilities masters, I guess. And then same with Bob Proctor. So anyway, I started working with her, and then I launched my book. It was called Stella and the Timekeepers. I launched that on April 28, 2015. Well, I had been at the a couple different Bob Proctor seminars, and I had met Phil Goldfine, who is one of the students that we highlight in our Masters of Possibility program, and he gave me his card. And so the last thing I did before I launched my book was I sent him an email. And then that morning he sent me an email and said, hey, send me an electronic version of the book and I'll read it. And who knows what will happen. So then he had me to Universal. He called me a week and a half after my book launch when it became a bestseller, and he cleared his whole schedule for me and gave me this tour, and made me feel like I was some kind of badass for sure. And in the executive dining room, which now I know is just a commissary, we're right next to the commissary, but he made it sound like it was, oh, this is the executive dining room at the time. And at one point he said, welcome to Hollywood royalty. I'm making you the next J.K. Rowling. And I was like, what? He said, this is a 4-quadrant project, meaning it appeals to all demographics, boys, girls, men, and women. He said, your concept is solid. You need some work on your writing, but understand if you don't take it personally and you just keep working at it, scripts, even the day of it being filmed, are constantly being updated and rewritten by the writers. So just do the rewrites. When there's subtle little changes, just do them. So I changed my life completely and moved to Los Angeles and started showing up every day at Universal Studios at the bungalow. And that's how I got to know you, Jeff. And Fletch, you came out and you saw me. And then one day Phil tells me that he wants me to meet this publisher. So I talked to Richard Cohen, who is the publisher of Beyond Words, and he is the publisher of the book The Secret, and also the distributor of the film The Secret. So that sold well over 500 million copies, I think. And he came to Universal Studios to meet me, and Phil and I sat across in Phil's office across the room from him, and we were kind of pitching him on the concept, what we were trying to do in creating this multi-billion-dollar franchise. And he said, I want this book. He scooted closer and closer to the edge of his seat. And I mean, he was almost on the verge of falling off. And he was like, oh, I want this. So we got the book to him and he really liked it. We signed a book deal August 2017. And I, again, uprooted myself and moved to Oregon. And when I went for my very first interview with the author's interview where you first meet the publisher, I walked in and it was the craziest thing because the publishing house where the headquarters is here, it's about a mile from where my grandmother's farm was. This is home. And so I walked in and I was greeted by Emily, who has since become my developmental editor. And I said, it's so weird. It's like I'm coming home. And she asked why. And I said, because I'm an Oregonian. I'm from here. And she said, you have got to tell Michelle that. And I said, who's Michelle? Well, she's the publisher. So I said, I thought Richard was a publisher. Oh, well, that's Richard's wife. Oh, okay. So they're a husband-wife team on this. Okay, got it. So she walks around the corner and she introduces herself. And Emily says, tell her what you told me. And I said, well, it's just so crazy because I'm coming home. My grandmother's farm is right around the corner. And if you ask me what time of my life was would I consider home, the time in my life where it's home was my grandmother's farm. It was a filbert farm, which is a term for hazelnuts, big apple trees and cherry trees and pear trees and a huge garden. And it was this beautiful country in the Willamette Valley near Portland. And it's now a memory because I think condominiums are on it. And across the street is now a Walmart. It's totally different than it was in my mind. And when I told Michelle that, she said, okay, so I'm the chief acquisition officer here. I'm the one that makes all the decisions on the books that we acquire. And I'm also the publisher. But I wasn't really looking forward to our meeting today. And I asked why. And she said, because I thought we'd be dealing with a Hollywood type. But then she goes, you're an Oregonian, an Oregon publishing house promoting an Oregon author. She goes, this is beautiful. And she gives me a big hug. And anyway, it was just pretty amazing. So I came into the conference room here and we had our meeting, which was incredibly powerful. There were 4 people besides me. So they had 2 of their editors and then Richard and Michelle. And the picture behind me, I wanted this as the backdrop for this. At one point when Phil came up here and he was introduced to Richard, they came into this conference room and they were talking and he sees that photograph and says, what's that about? Because if you see, it looks like, can you see that? I mean, Oprah looks like she is just thinking of Richard as God, the way she's hanging on him. It's really a cool photo, I think. And on this side is Jean West, who's a very successful author. And Richard said, oh, I published a book that she loved. And Phil said, what book? And he said, The Secret. And he was like, what? Oh my gosh. He just thought it was some like podunk little publishing house. He had no idea, just some kind of boutique-y place. But like, this is a significant publishing house. That's one of the best-selling books of all time. So this is what we're talking about. And I see on the other wall, there's a picture of The Secret with the hardcover bestsellers, #1 Wall Street Journal, #1 New York Times, #1 USA Today. There's another one I can't remember. Wall Street Journal, I already said that. Anyway, pretty significant stuff. So On top of all that, I was mentioning that we were doing Masters of Possibility today when I was talking to Richard, and he was giving me the update on what's happening with the book, with my book. And when I told him about Masters of Possibility, and I've talked to him before, but he seemed to hear it today. He said, well, I certainly hope that you consider us when you are looking for a publisher. Let's set up a meeting, because I would love that. When I explained to him, the idea is the secret, but giving examples of how do you apply this stuff? What do you do? And showing specific people going through all of the different walls that they're going to hit, and limitations, and self-limiting beliefs, all that stuff. This is like a perfect marriage for that, because people want to know how. They want to know how do they change their lives, and we can show them with Masters of Possibility. So anyway, was that okay introduction?
By far the longest. That concludes the interview with Mick.
We've run over time.
And that's it for questions. Too funny. I'm glad that you did bring up Masters of Possibility and explain a little bit about it, because you brought it up several times in your introduction. And I
like to preemptively answer questions.
I think it's important that, whoever our viewers are watching this understand what it is. And it's a television series that highlights certain masters such as Bob Proctor and Michael Beckwith, et cetera, and their students, and follows them around and shows the process of, I say fix them, but maybe they're not broken, so that might be the right word, but take them through their journey to whatever their issue is, whether it's being overweight, or whether it's they want to find that next level of success, or they want to win an Oscar like Phil, right? And we showcase how that progression takes place. And yeah, so thanks for bringing that up. But I want to go back to the book, and I have a question for you real quick. When you started writing the book, how did you focus? You're coming from this place of like, oh my God, I'm losing all my stuff. My life's a wreck. You have a dream. And how did you focus and actually sit down and get that stuff on paper?
So the dream was in 2008, and I did not sit down and focus until 2011. It wasn't like I jumped out of bed and started writing.
That's funny.
Actually, what happened is that I thought about it all the time, and it was kind of like the main character. Her name is Stella. That she kept tapping me on the shoulder. Like every morning, I wake up, and the world that I am laying out in this series, if you imagine it's like a castle, every day I would visit a different room, and it just kept expanding and kept expanding and kept expanding, and it continues to today. It continues to expand. But so it was late October of 2011. I went to dinner with a friend of mine, and I asked him about this book that I knew that he was writing, the memoirs of his mother, and how he was progressing. And he said, well, I've decided to change it. I'm going to make it more humorous, kind of like David Sedaris. Instead of being a more historical fiction, I'm going to make it more tongue-in-cheek, funny. And then he looked at me kind of funny. He goes, why are you asking me that? I've been working on this for 20 years and I haven't made much progress. And I said, well, I have this book in me and I want to get it out, but I have no idea where to start. And he said, oh, you should do NaNoWriMo. And I said, what's that? He said, it stands for National Novel Writing Month, and it's every November. Go home and Google it. So I went home and I Googled it, and I was blown away. This is something that has been going on for years. It started out with a small group of organizers, I think in San Francisco, that they challenged each other to get their book done in 1 month, or the first draft of their book. And it has grown over the years. It's grown. And so hundreds of thousands of people do this every year. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll start doing it. And it was like I got a bee in my bonnet. I had to do it. So every morning I would get up and I would say, I'm the next J.K. Rowling and I'm writing the next Harry Potter. And I would do that. And then how weird that later when I came to Universal Studios that Phil said what he said about I'm going to be the next J.K. Rowling. Like, oh my gosh, the energy back of stuff is so important. So if you can infuse in the inception, when you plant the seed of an idea with this energy, and then you keep focusing on it, it can manifest itself. And that's what I think is amazing. So September 2018 is when I'm launching my book, 10 years after I had the dream. And taking it back to what Malcolm Gladwell said, it takes 10 years for something to become a master at. Hi, Tiza.
Hi. Okay, so just to, I have another question. So you brought up Rob Proctor. Who, if he wasn't, who were your mentors?
Well, Bob Proctor certainly became a mentor. Peggy McCall became a mentor. Those are mentors as an adult, and I didn't realize how important having mentors was. It's, well, according to Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich, in order to do anything of significance, you have to have a mastermind group, and you have to have people that will believe in you. And so when you don't believe in yourself, you have to be able to believe in the belief other people have in you. And that's what Bob and Peggy became. And so just moving forward, Phil Goldfine became a mentor of mine. He's still a significant mentor. Peggy and Bob, and then Bob's business partner, Sandy Gallagher, and now Richard is a mentor. And then with Masters of Possibilities, I think we have the opportunity of all of these amazing thinkers. They're at our beck and call, and we can reach out to them and use them as mentors.
Yeah, I am pretty fired up that we got this band back together, as Fletch said. It is. I think it's so important to get these guys teaching out there. I mean, it's so eye opening, and to find it so later. I say late in life. I mean, I'm in my 40s. It's not that late, but I wish I would have found this stuff, and I'm sure many do in their 20s, right, or even my teens. Like, just been exposed to having that kind of an open mind of like, oh my gosh, this kind of stuff makes a lot of sense. It really makes a lot of sense.
So I remember when I went to Bob Proctor's event, and it was called The Science of Getting Rich, and it was in Dallas, 2014, May, I believe. I remember it started probably around 6 p.m. on a Friday, and sitting there mesmerized by this man who, he's at that point, I think he was either 80 or close to 80, rushing on the stage and just having such life and such vibrancy, talking about the laws of the universe and talking about working within the laws. And the Science of Getting Rich was written by Wallace D. Wattles, and it's explaining these concepts I'd never heard. And I remember thinking, why didn't I know this when I was a kid? And so interestingly, later when this woman that I know who's a writer, she basically begged to read my manuscript, and it was very, very rough at that time. She called me and she said, "Oh my God, this is amazing. Where do you come up with these ideas? And you do understand that you have all of these teachings that Bob Proctor has. They're infused in what you've written." And I didn't have any influence from really anybody except infinite intelligence is what Napoleon Hill calls it. And it's just having this connection to source, or to the source energy or something like that, the collective consciousness. And so that was pretty cool. So I totally agree with you. Like, why didn't we know this earlier? How come weren't exposed to this?
This thought just came into my head, and I don't know if it was Joseph Murphy or Novell that says it. I think it was Joseph Murphy, and he says, "Creation is over, so all possibilities are already there." And I can't ever get that out of my mind. Like, the airplane has existed for all time. for the last 60,000 years. The airplane's been there, but no one has put it out there, right? It's just creation's done, and that goes for us too, right? We can go where we want to go. It's all there for us. That house, that car, whatever it is, it's already there. Just got to figure out how to, you know, make it work. Get that vibration. Yeah, awesome.
You got to get aligned with it. And the idea of how a thought, just a thought, is a little seed that can grow into a mighty oak as long as you keep thinking that thought. It's mind-boggling.
Okay, it is. I sometimes carry an oak tree seed, an acorn. Is there acorns, right? With me. Like my son will pick them up and I carry it because it is absolutely fascinating. If you think about it, that when you plant that in the ground, it knows to only grow into an oak tree. Not an apple tree, not another type of tree, just that. Like, how is it possible? How does it know?
It's right? Like it's got an energetic DNA or a blueprint somehow in there. Like
it takes all the materials it needs from the universe, the earth, or everything, and grows itself into a massive tree with leaves and solid oak wood. I mean, it's crazy, right?
It's amazing.
And then has thousands of seeds to grow thousands of more. It's like perfect. Isn't it Bob who says that the universe is perfect? It's so true. Everything is designed perfectly. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Fletch, you got any questions for Nicholas?
Well, yeah, I write. I usually have my notebook, but I left it in the house. So,
do you need to run back and get it? We'll wait.
You know, it's actually
Nick can tell us a little bit. Give us a little more of his introduction.
Wait, I'm gonna go get a little massage, freshen up. I need to have my pen, or this doesn't work. So a couple things, Mick. And I've obviously known you for a while, and one of the things I know that stands out, right, in meeting with you and talking to you and listening to updates on where things are going and who you've talked to is something that does come up from time to time, which is Phil saying next J.K. Rowling, right? And it seems like that was a specific moment in this experience that let you create, in some ways, a vision, like a more concrete vision, a more definitive path, an expression of this thing that was inside you, that was burgeoning, and you know, there was energy there, and there were lessons there, and there were meaning there, but it didn't have a form, so to speak. It you know, there were maybe scenes or things that you wanted to have it be, but that in some ways kind of set you on a more specific path, it seems like. Would you kind of comment on that maybe a little bit, or
sure.
Let me know what you think? Yeah.
I remember when I read, I'm getting a little feedback.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll just have to deal with the echo.
I don't hear it.
I did it. That's what it was, just there. I know you probably heard that part. All right, anyway. So when I was reading the Harry Potter series, I was so impressed with the imagination that she had and thinking, well, I'm an imaginative guy. I can do it. And then I read, the Hunger Games, and I read, all these different series that I thought were so great. And I always thought, well, all you need is an idea. And of course, everybody who, if they didn't read the books or they didn't see the movies, they know J.K. Rowling's story. And she just had a really good idea. It just hit her. One day she was on a train from London to Manchester, and it just hit her all of a sudden. And she got so excited about it. Well, I had started writing different books at different times. And when I had that dream, it just hit me. And I remember thinking, wow, this must be what J.K. Rowling thought. And so over the time that this idea, after the dream, it was incubating, I remember thinking about J.K. Rowling and her evolution, and that, oh, well, if she can do it, then maybe I can do it. And it wasn't as concrete as the concept of that. But when I sat down to write the book every day, I thought, well, if I'm going to do this, I might as well go big or go home. So I kept saying, I mean, every morning, I'm the next J.K. Rowling. This is the next Harry Potter. I kept thinking that. And then there's little, like little things that come up. People will say, "Oh, you're the next J.K. Rowling." Well, Phil said it, and then different people. And so it's like this belief in it makes it so. And I'm having faith that this is making it so. And now I've got Richard and Michelle Cohen and Beyond Words, who are the publishers of The Secret, and they're calling this book Harry Potter Meets the Secret because so much happens here. But it's teaching kids these principles in a very creative, imaginative way. And Fletch, I know that your family read the book, the original book off Amazon. Well, when I brought that book here, we had to go through and completely change it. And I had a developmental editor, and she, oh my gosh, she made me go super deep into it. The original manuscript was 67,000 words, and when my final version was done, it was 120,000 words. So it's double the size, and it's so much deeper. And what we were doing is establishing much more characterization, sense of place, getting all of these concepts as concrete as possible, and then also kind of whitewashing out some things, that the themes that may be offensive to people. Not that it would, because you have to watch out for all these things. So you just want to make it so it's cohesive and that it works. And I think we're in the 4th round of edits now, and then it goes into a 5th. And one of the reasons I talked to Richard today was, where are we at? And he goes, oh, we're about a month out. And I'm like, no, come on, let's get it done. So it takes a long time. So there's a lot of hurry up and wait. So the new version is going to be 1,000 times better than the original manuscript that I self-published on Amazon. Did that answer any questions?
Are you done writing?
No, I'm not.
So how much more revision is there left in this journey?
Oh, well, there's a so now it's with, I can't remember what Emilisa's title is. She's she's a copy editor, but she's also does some developmental stuff. So she's going through and she's doing what she does with it. And then when she's done, there's very specific rules that go to a specialized middle grade fiction editor who's going to be doing their thing. And of course they come to me and they're getting any information that I need, but when they get all done with it, then they throw it back to me, and then I either accept the changes or do more rewrites. I'm not really quite sure what happens, because they'll give me, all of this and say, okay, here's your job, and they'll give me the instructions in, and then I just keep making every deadline. That's my goal. Do it. Just do it.
Hey Mick, a follow-up that kind of plays into all this. So right now we're recording this, it's 2018, the Olympics are on, right? And I've been watching some of the events. I grew up in like a winter sports town, Steamboat Springs, Colorado. And so I actually went to school with a lot of people who wound up competing in the Olympics and even coaching in the Olympics and things like that. And, I've got all these memories of being a kid and playing with, people and, hanging around, and, we'd always be like, oh yeah, dropping back and you catch the game-winning touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. And, their dream and their vision was to win a gold medal, in the 90-meter, ski jump or, biathlon or whatever it might be. Right. And so, I'm a little bit familiar with that expression that we see on TV when somebody gets their score and they're just like, oh my God, I can't believe this is really happening. Right. And because I was part of certain people's, experience. And I know it was, in some ways it was just a dream, and it was something that there's a lot of work that goes into, and there's a lot of focus. And at a certain point, there's this realization of this is really happening. And, as we're trying to kind of connect with people who are in this, I'm dreaming this and I'm practicing and I'm putting in work and I'm connecting with the right people and I'm putting myself in the right place. could you talk a little bit about how that back and forth goes? Because I know there's probably been a couple times when it was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. And then it feels like it just goes flat again. Right. And then it ramps up and you get some more, feedback or a new connection. And then it almost makes it. And then it's like, well, and we're waiting for months. And now, oh, here we go. So like, what's that like for a writer? Because you've got your specific experience here. What can you talk about that and how you have to manage yourself and what that's like to stay the path and get that vision?
So I've got this. It's like a vision board, but it's a book. And I remember someone telling me, I was introduced to Garib Shamus, and he is the founder of Comic-Con and Wizarding World magazine. And a friend of mine knew him, put us together, and I got on a plane and I flew out to meet him in New York, and we had a couple hours. And he said to me, so tell me about what's going on with you. And I said, oh, well, I don't know how much Ken's told you. And he goes, scrap that idea. I don't care what I've heard. I want to hear from you. And I want to hear from what the ultimate vision is. And so I just said, I am a billionaire author who has written a series of beloved children's novels that teaches concepts of personal development in a very imaginative and creative way. And he said, wow, I love your clarity. And throughout the conversation, he was pulling out from me these ideas. And then he said, vision book. And I said, what's that? I can't, he didn't call it a vision book. That's what I call it, but he called it something else. Gosh, I can't remember the word. It might come to me, but essentially it's a book with your vision.
Bible. Was it a Bible?
Yeah, a Bible, a personal Bible. Yeah, that's it. So I did it. I just sat down and it's 33 pages and it's a book. And when I came here for the first time, I passed the book around and I said, okay, look at this. And I talk about not only the best-selling book, but manifesting a publishing house, manifesting well, the movie, the whole franchise, every part of it, the merchandising, all of this that I wanted to create. And they were like, whoa, you really know what you want to do. And I said, well, you have to have a blueprint. Is it going to happen exactly like this? Probably not, but at least it's an idea of it. So when I get to those moments of self-doubt, I just bring that book out and I look at it like, oh, this is where I'm going. So it's kind of like if I was driving to San Francisco, I've got the map and there's not one road to San Francisco. There's a lot of different ways to get there. It's just making sure that I understand where that destination is and I'm holding on that vision. And that's the most important thing, is to hold the vision. So self-doubt creeps in. There might be long periods of time where nothing seems to be happening, but I just have to trust that the vision that I have and the vision that any of us for our dreams, whatever that be, that we hold that vision in our minds, and it will come about at some point. We'll look around saying, oh my God, this is real now. This is in reality.
So just to further, because it's a fascinating question, Fletch, that feeling of excitement when you finally get it, you're just like, oh my God, this is awesome. So have you had that?
Well, yeah, there's times when it happened. I remember when I was at Universal Studios the first time with Phil, and we went into the executive dining room, and he said that this was a 4-quadrant project, and welcome to Hollywood royalty. I'm making it next J.K. Rowling. I remember everything went slow motion. And I thought, holy crap, this is crazy. This Oscar and multi-Emmy winning producer is telling me that he's going to help. He believes in this vision that I have, and he doesn't even know that I have that vision. That's the thing that was crazy. So I fall back on that. I fall back on, okay, the truth of this is, if it ended today, would I be happy with this? Of course not, because I have the vision of it continuing. So when nothing happens, and I'm still flying, I'm still a flight attendant, I still have to go fly to make ends meet. And I'm not trying to focus on learning how to do new skills. I just want to write. When I was working on the rewrite of my book for 4 months, 16 hours a day, I was typing. I still have tennis elbow. My elbow still is killing me. But it was what I wanted to do. It was me and my dog in a cabin on the Oregon coast. It was raining. It was cloudy. I would go out and walk every day. But I lived in that world, and that's what I want to do. That's all I want to do. And so I remember making a fire one day and looking around thinking, oh my God, I'm doing what I want to do. It's so cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I want to dig in a little more, if that's okay, Mick. So something you said early, and I'm kind of paraphrasing because I was kind of trying to type notes because I can't write because I lost I didn't lose it. It was in the house. So you mentioned speaking with somebody who said, it's there. You need to do some work maybe on the writing. So as long as you're okay with, getting edited, so to speak, right? Constructive criticism, and even to the point where, like, as I kind of superimpose it, like I know we were talking about the Olympics, right? That, there's kids that just have natural talent and a vision, but their mechanics are all wrong, right? And they've got to be okay with being coached and being told, you know what, you're better than everybody else around you, but doing it that way is not going to get you to the goal you want, the vision you have. You need to change it. There's a specific type of thing that goes on in people's brains who are able to do that, right? I keep the vision and I know I'm talented, but I can get rid of all these mechanics because this other person is able to see something that I need to work on. Could you talk about that? Because I think that's a huge thing of people wanting to feel like they're already all right. And if you love the vision, you got to take me, lock, stock, and barrel, and it's all or nothing kind of thing. That's a huge thing that keeps people, completely blocked in life. Would you kind of comment on that?
Sure. Taking things personally is the worst thing that any of us can do, because that shows us that we're incapable of improving. So if you look at the whole vision, I mean, the fact that I came home to Oregon to do this, I think it's just mind-blowing to me, just around the corner from my grandmother's house. Also, probably 2 miles from where I grew up doing gymnastics. So my focus from the age of 10 to 17, every day I was at the gym and I was doing gymnastics, and it kept me out of trouble. It kept me focused, and it taught me about how to do goals, how to create goals. Like, I really want to do a double back. Well, you can't just go and do a double back. There's these progressions that you have to do, and that is so that you feel comfortable doing a single back before you can do a double back. And there's all this stuff that you have to build upon. So what was the question?
No, that's okay. I was kind of getting at the psychology of being able to maintain your vision and knowing that you've got the talent, but also knowing that there's somebody telling you that's not the way it needs to be done. It needs to be done this way.
I knew there was, I was bringing up the whole thing of gymnastics. So in gymnastics, I became very coachable because I learned slowly as I was doing different skills that if I did not make changes, I would die. I would break my neck. As an adult, I became a master swimmer, and I learned all the strokes. I learned how to be a swimmer, and then I started competing in masters events. And one of the comments I got from not only one coach, but every coach that I worked with is, wow, you make changes when I tell you. Well, and it's probably because it was always a life or death thing. Like, you make this change or you're going to hurt yourself, or I did hurt myself. So I had to listen to my coach. So it was this kind of give and take that put me in this place where I was coachable. So it's incredibly important for us to be open and not take things personally, but be open to improving ourselves and our performances. That is probably the most important thing in working towards achieving our goal. So when I was told that I needed help with writing, and the way it was framed was in this really nice way, that don't take it personally. You're not the greatest writer in the world. You don't have a lot of experience as a writer. You have never written a book before. And that put me in this humble place where I thought, okay, if I want to get better, I've got to do it more, and I've got to get guidance from really good people. And so I've got that. I've established that. And how important it is to get good coaching from people who really, really know. And so one of the things, Fletch, again, back to you with your concept of seeking truth, you have to be truthful not only with the coaches that you have, but with yourself. You have to ask yourself, am I right? Do I have to be right about this? You have to question not only other people, but you have to question yourself. So there's self-improvement, but keep asking yourself the question all the time, how do I get better? And you can kind of know when you're right, and then you also have to question yourself and then accept when you're wrong or that you can improve.
Cool. Yeah, there's you were speaking and you mentioned the word humble, but like I still know you, and you're so friendly, you're so open, you're so nice. I know you're hungry as well. And so it's like this like humble but hungry at the same time. So you're willing to say, all right, I'm willing to be not any good at this thing because I'm hungry enough to listen and do these things that are necessary to get this vision that I want to create and be a part of, and really bring to life. That's what I was hearing in different words. But there was one other thing that kind of came up. How big was it for you on this kind of path to be able to really communicate this vision you had, right? And you said you had a book in you, but the difference between a book and then this 4-quadrant franchise, billionaireism, and all this kind of thing, right? They're very different things. So the vision you had, I get the impression the vision you had was not the book. The book was just part of the fuel or part of the vehicle or something to a much bigger vision of what you want to represent and really bring the world and show people about what you understand and have seen. Can you talk a little bit about, there's this thing that you've got to get out of you, and then also there's this vision, and they may not be quite married up when you start?
Yeah, sure. Okay, I have a funny story. So this friend of mine, David, he loves butter. And so one time, it was like 2 a.m. He wakes up and his daughter-in-law hears somebody in the kitchen. So she's a little freaked out. So she gets up and she walks in, and he's in the kitchen, standing in the kitchen with a stick of butter in his hand, and I think he's in his underwear. And she's like, what are you doing? He goes, do you have any bread or anything? She goes, why? He goes, I need something to eat my butter with. So the bread is just the vehicle for the butter. So it's marrying the two. So it is really about the marriage of those two things, that they've got to come together in, how do I put this? It has to be in harmony, and also so that they line up and they're going towards the same thing.
Was the goal to write a book, or was the goal to be a billionaire?
I don't think the goal is to be a billionaire. I think the goal is to make big changes in people's lives ultimately. And I was reading Benjamin Franklin's autobiography, which was written as a letter to his son, and it turned into this big book. And it's a fabulous read. If you haven't read it, read it. It's so cool, where he talks about he's an old man, and he is so fortunate that he can sit in his rocking chair, not physically capable of doing what he did when he was a young man, but looking back over a life well lived. And I thought, what a cool thing. You have a choice today in the next action that you take to either sit there as a 90-year-old man in your rocking chair and look back at your life as a life well lived, or look back with regret. You make that choice. And so I thought, if I'm sitting here in my rocking chair and I'm rocking, I just put myself in that mind space. I'm rocking and I'm looking back at my life. What do I want that to look like? And I want to make an impact with writing, with this story, and this story that becomes something. I mean, imagine what J.K. Rowling is living. Everybody in the world has heard of Harry Potter. Everybody has either read one of the books, read all the books. They know something about all of this huge franchise that she created. But we all know her story, and it's got bullet points, because that's what they've kind of fashioned as the brand. And she didn't do it by herself. And I'm finding that here at the publishing house, that as a writer, I'm a really good creative writer. I can make crazy shit up. And there are other people that can take my words and make it beautiful and make it flow better and have proper grammar and all that stuff. And in the process, I'm learning how it goes. So again, it goes back to wanting to be open enough and humble enough, but hungry enough to bring about the vision that you have. And that vision is from the perspective of a 90-year-old man sitting on a rocking chair looking back at a life well lived.
You know, it's funny you bring that up, that looking back on your whole life. And I think a lot of us need to put that into play every single day, right? Like, you're defining your happiness by all the experiences you're having by every moment. So an example is, the other day I was driving the car, someone cut me off. There's two ways I can react to that, right? Like, you mother fucking, get all anxious, right? Which I used to do. I used to hate it, right? And it did nothing to anybody in the whole world except me, right? And I don't know. It was a few years ago I came to that realization, and then now if someone cuts me off, I just have a totally different outlook on it. And I only bring that up because I think it's important that arc there that Benjamin Franklin had, looking back on the life, but you can do that starting now, right? And kind of look back and look at your daily things, which obviously you're doing. And I do want to say that you have lived, from my perspective, a fascinating life so far. Fascinating. Yes, you go everywhere, man. I mean, who would just pack their shit up, leave their car in Texas, fly to Hollywood with nowhere to go on Airbnb, find a room, and live in Hollywood until you got what you needed to get to your next step? And that's exactly what you did. And then boom, you're gone. I mean, you used to sit in this office every day for how long? And then overnight you're gone, and now you're in Oregon sitting there writing the rest of your book. Crazy. Where will you be next?
Well, hopefully I'll be back in Hollywood, and we're working on the movie. Yeah. And then on top of that, we're starting to work on the marketing stuff. And in fact, Fletch, I want to talk to you a little bit about that. One of the cool things I'm doing tomorrow, I have an interview with a guy. We'll talk about a vision. This is pretty crazy. I was connected with this woman whose daughter won the X Factor in the UK. Her name is Louisa Johnson. My friend's name is Lisa, the mother. And she and I talk really often. Well, when she came out of her mother singing, she would hum as a little baby. She was constantly singing. She realized this, and in 18 months, she put her into a singing group. these little kids would sit around, they would sing probably Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. I mean, I don't know what, but until the age of 3. And then she got her some lessons, and this girl, she just couldn't be stopped. She always wanted to sing. And she was watching, as a 7-year-old, she was watching the X Factor. And she turned to her mom and said, "Mommy, how old do you have to be on that show?" And she said, "Oh, 16 or 17. And she got real quiet. And then she said, "I'm going to go on there when I'm 16 or 17 and I'm going to win." And lo and behold, 10 years later, she did. It's that 10-year thing. There's something about 10 years that there's really special, which I think is pretty cool that you have that. But if we understand that things don't happen overnight. So again, it's super important to have the vision. Super important. So when we do have those self-doubt, those moments of self-doubt and all that, that we can fall back on that vision, like, oh yeah, that didn't happen. Oh, but this is happening right here, way over there, way ahead, 10 years from now, or whenever it is. I don't remember what the question was.
Hey, Mick, that actually kind of brings up something that I think about a lot, right? With my relationship with obviously David Mills, who you know, and concepts related to strategy and really what you're doing with yourself and how to figure out what's important and seeking to understand situations and scenarios in a way that you can allocate resources toward things that are important versus things that are unimportant. And so many people spend a ton of time on, Facebook or Snapchat or TV, and they find themselves in that rocking chair that you talked about at the end of their life, looking back and realize they hadn't necessarily they hadn't allocated their resources in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
So with what you've talked about today, there are a couple things that jumped out. One was that month you spent writing every day and just getting to the place where you had written content that was rough and needed cohesiveness and everything else, but you had the bulk of work done. You had stuff that you could say, I've got this vision and here's all these words, right? If somebody asked you, so where's the book? Here, I've got something at least, right? That seems to be in certain ways. If you hadn't put that month of work into that, it may have been the next year or the next decade potentially before things lined up, so to speak, right? There's a part of having the vision and even meeting the right people where really the rubber kind of hits the road, and you've got to produce something. You've got to do something. That month, which out of this whole 10 years you talk about, it seems like not just that month, but that concept of, you know what, if a book is on the way toward this big franchise and 4-quadrant thing, if a book is on that way, I need to get the book done.
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk about how that coalesced and maybe how you started to see that really clearly as like, well, I'm not ever going to get to that place unless I get this place taken care of?
Okay, so that 3 years that the concept after the dream or the seed germinated, it was growing, and I was thinking about it all the time. It wasn't until I said to my friend, I have this book in me and I want to do it. And he said, I had no idea. I had never heard of NaNoWriMo. I knew nothing about it. But the concept of just getting it done, Nike has it figured out, just do it. That is such a great idea. It's so simple, it's so direct, and so many people complicate things. And I think it was October 26th when I went out to dinner with him. And then, what is that, 5 days later or 6 days later, I'm sitting down every day writing my book. You just have to make the decision. And I think it's very important to understand the power of a single decision. That one decision to getting it done, it has changed the course of my life. And now the more that I work towards it and the more I focus on it and the more I show up and be in service to this vision, the more the vision starts to or it continues to grow. I'm nourishing it with my thought energy.
I love it. Oh, so let me think about a way to put this into context. I wrote some notes and I'm trying to sort out. Jeff, jump in for a second. Let me think about there's one other angle on this kind of strategy wise, and where you're kind of putting your energy into into creating things that you touched on it, and maybe I can sort out a decent question with it. Otherwise, it'll just be lost.
I can speak to something, and it has to be David Mills.
Okay. Yeah, run with that.
King of strategy. I remember I went to OMG Live 2000. Well, when we met, Fletch,
2013, Mick. That was when we met. Yeah.
And I remember I went to that event and I met David. And David he's not somebody that likes to be in front of people, and he's very good one-on-one, but in a big group, I don't think that he feels particularly comfortable. He just likes to get really into somebody's head. And so I said to him, when I realized who he was, he's the founder of this internet marketing company and strategy. I said, I'm not here really because I want to be an online marketer. I'm here because I want to learn what it can do for this vision that I have. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'm a writer. And he goes, and what does that look like? And this is where it's solidified. Even though there were a lot of, like the tentacles were out there, he said, go back and think about it, and tomorrow talk to me. So I sought him out because I thought, I have to get clear on what this vision is. And it was, I'm the next Harry Potter. I mean, I'm next J.K. Rowling, and this is the next Harry Potter. That's what it was. Yeah, I'm the next Harry Potter. Anyway, so I remember it was so funny because I was standing with him. There's all this food around, and the caterers were just bringing the food in. And he was making sure it was done, and nobody was around. It was just me and him. And he said, "So, did you think about it? What is your vision?" And I said, "I want my book to be the next Harry Potter. My book series to be the next Harry Potter. I want to be the next J.K. Rowling." And he goes, "Oh, that's easy." I was like, "It is?" He goes, "Yeah, at least you know what you want." That so many people have a hard time with that. And so the next thing is, once my book had become a bestseller on Amazon, and then I get the phone call from Phil, and then I went to Universal and I met him. I remember calling David, and he answered the phone, and I said, "This is what I'm doing." And David goes into this. He gets very serious, and he says, "Okay, this is your next step. You make Phil your best friend. Don't think about anything else. Don't think about what your website looks like. Don't think about email marketing or internet marketing. Don't think about selling books. Make him your best friend." So I just started showing up. And a few months later, I remember I said something about best friends. He goes, "Hey, I thought I was your best friend." And I go, "Well, you're kind of my best friend." But I was just messing with him. But it's funny how you, as you said, allocate your energy and your resources to a specific spot. And because I allocated that and I just kept showing up, then the next thing is he happens to be in Oregon and he happens to meet the publishers of The Secret. And then that's why this is here. And then, like you said about who gets up and moves to Hollywood and rents rooms so that they can come to Universal? Well, maybe the person who has an opportunity to go to Universal may, okay, this is being in service to the vision, without really understanding that that's what I was doing. And then now I up and move here so I can come to the publishing house and be a part of this every day, or not. I'm not here every day, but as often as I can. That, I think, is I'm being in service to that vision. And the next step is this whole marketing thing. And I was going to tell you that I'm meeting with a gentleman. His name is Alex. I think you pronounce it Ayan. He is the founder and creator of Social Chain, which is a global social media management company. And one of the things, their claims to fame, they manage a whole bunch of big corporate, global corporate accounts and big name stars pushing content through their social media and increasing the following and all that kind of stuff. One of the things they did to prove the power of social media was they fabricated this football star in the UK, just made him up. And he got, I don't know, like in 3 months, he had like 1 million followers, and people were they were hungry to know more about what he's doing. And I mean, there was never a picture of him. There'd be a picture of somebody's thighs, or there'd be kicking a ball, or there'd be some shoes on the front porch, and they just kept creating this to a point where like Manchester United and the other big teams over there, they wanted this guy on their team. They were starting to try to bid to have him on their team. And then he had to come clean and say, wait. This isn't real. This guy is made up. And they got a lot of press for that. This is the power of social media. So I reached out to him through Lisa, my friend, whose daughter won the X Factor. And she connected us. And we're having this phone call tomorrow. And I'm saying to him, I know what you can do. You and your team can do. How can we work together? I don't even know what the conversation is going to be about or how it's going to go, except I know that it's in service to the vision that I'm creating.
So with where you are right now, you like one of the things I'll kind of I don't want to necessarily point it out, but it seems like this is the case, and I've known you long enough to know that one of the exceptional things about you is that you are able to put all of your attention on one thing until it gets sorted out. Not like you're going to just put your head down and not pay attention to anything else going on and, do a bunch of physical manual labor for a while until, something gets built. But like when David said, hey, okay, your next task, so to speak, is to become friends with Phil, and not specifically just friends, but become best friends, right? Mm-hmm. And then you took that instruction about that month when you were going to write, and you actually did it, right? There's a lot of people who have this whole narrative and a horrible system of deciding what's important at any given time that interferes with this sort of behavior, where you've gone from whatever to whatever in a certain amount of time. I assume many of the people in your peer group or people that you work with or that are really in no different place aside from being older and any other maladies that accumulated over 10 years than you are. But you were able to focus your energy on kind of strategically this next thing. I need to do this or I can't ever get there. And you just started like kind of stacking those building blocks, if you understand kind of that metaphor. To me, Mick, that's one of the more exceptional things about you. You've talked about being an amazing creative writer, and I've read the book that I have from however long ago. I would agree. I love the concepts. My daughter loved it. But really just overall in a general sense in life, you talked about gymnastics, you talked about swimming, you talked about writing, you've got this book deal, you've got this Hollywood Connect. These are things people could have dreamt about and tried to work toward their whole life and never made it. And
never left your basement. Yeah.
Yeah. You've stacked these things up back to back to back to back. And it seems to be something in I won't say mindset. It's really just a method you have of understanding these important things that you need to get handled before this vision you have or this accomplishment or this goal is going to come to fruition, right? Would you talk maybe a little bit more about that? Because that's something that there's so many people just don't have. I'm not saying they don't have it. They don't use it. right? It's in all of us. Learning a method, okay, you pick up the nail, you put it on the board, you hit the board. You know, it's a method. But most people don't see it as important as it actually is in life to be able to get from where they are, which most of us have things about us that are not, you know, kind of up to snuff, or we'd like to improve, or we'd like to be able to give more, whatever it might be. But we don't always have a problem getting that vision. We can watch a pump me up movie, or, you know, there's YouTube videos about inspiration, this and it can change our mood, but then we default back to kind of this low energy state or whatever it might be when we're not around that environment. And being able to have an anchor outside of that environment that's a method, it seems to be a really critical piece. Would you talk about that, please?
That's interesting. I don't think I've ever really thought of that. So I think that it really has to do with the law of sacrifice. We have to sacrifice everything that we do in life. We're sacrificing something else. If I choose to do anything, I'm sacrificing other things in order to make that happen. And this comes very clear when I got the book deal and I came up here and I was meeting with the editors, and it was a 4-month process where I went from doing all these other things, and my focus got so laser beam that all I was doing was working on my book. And I think that's incredibly important to understand, that it's a short period of time. You've got, you know, it's this long. The end will come. This time is going to come anyway. So for me, it was September to December. This time is going to come anyway. Might as well do what it is I want to do. And I'm sacrificing my ability to, because there's no other real resources I have that are to make money except for I'm a flight attendant. There's plenty of things that I could do. I know that I could do it. I could do internet marketing. I could learn how to sell products on Amazon. I didn't want to put my energy on that. I wanted to put my energy on being in service to this vision of what I want to do, which is writing. So I was sacrificing earning income while I was writing this book or doing the rewrite. One of my friends one time said, good writing is in rewriting. And then I think that you can add to that. Good writing is in having other people rewrite your work. That's even better. But just having editors helping you. So you have a lot of people working with you and that are in service to the vision that you've created. It's crazy. I look around and I'm like, this is amazing that I've got this whole team of people that are helping me. So it's about the law of sacrifice. You're willing to sacrifice time or money or whatever for this short period of time to get it done.
Wait, so let me maybe call you to task a little bit on the word sacrifice.
Okay.
Right. And to me, that's a concept, and not to be like word police or whatever, but like sacrifice means kind of giving up a higher value to something of lower value.
Okay.
It seems like what you're able to do is understand what you should pay for something, that you're willing to pay that month or that financial cost it is to go to a seminar and get in the room with somebody, or make yourself uncomfortable and live someplace, because you understand that whatever it is that you're paying here is necessary to get this thing you need, that you have to have, that's part of your path, that's part of your vision. Wow. Is that accurate, or maybe?
I think that you're right. I think that you're right, because calling it log of sacrifice never really felt. Right? Yeah. I don't. So what's it called? Would it be paying it forward, or this is?
Honestly, I think it's just being able to pay a price that's reasonable, to know that if I'm going to pay this, I'm going to get something of higher value, or that's more valuable to me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So you're willing to pay the price. Yeah. And that's really what it is. I mean, there's so many things that I've walked away from in order to pay this price. And have I lost those things? Well, they've fallen off. It's more like I'm shedding an epidermis of some sort of a shell or something. I'm shedding that and moving into uh, evolving into something different.
Did you, every event you went to, the OMG event, the Bob Proctor events, all the stuff that you did you have it in your mind? Was it a crystal clear mission to be about the book? Was it always that was it? No?
No, it became very clear when I went to the seminar. I was doing this network marketing company, and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to learn how to be a really good network marketer. And I went there, and I completely forgot about the network marketing thing because I met Peggy McCall, and I had written this book. I had no idea that I was going there for that. But again, it's that energy back of it. There's this mysterious, invisible force that is pushing us towards our higher purpose or our life's mission or our life's purpose. And many times we're not even aware of that, what that mission is and what that purpose is. But I think I established that this is what I wanted with the energy back of me originally sitting down and writing the book. And it's so interesting to watch how things just kind of fell into, I can't see my fingers, fell into place and became clear. So oftentimes things aren't clear right up from the beginning. It clarifies as you go. You have to be willing to ask those questions. And then when you get a very clear idea of what it is that you want, then you also have to be willing to pay the price, as you said, Fletch. And I think I like that better than law of sacrifice, because I don't want to give anything up of higher value for something less. I want to understand that you lay this down, you put this down, you do the work, you do it, you just do it, and then understanding that a benefit of that work will be such and such.
Are you coming back on, Fletch?
Oh wait, I see. I left myself muted. I said some amazing things right there. Compliments about how handsome he is and how much he's given to me and helped my life and all that kind of thing. But I'm not going to. That's not important. But no, that this was good. Not to want to wrap things up at all, but it seems like we've kind of covered some ground, not just about what was obvious, right, with the book and the movie deal that's in kind of in play and what the path has looked like, but really kind of started to look at what it takes, and not, there's work. Everybody works, right? There's people that work until they're 70 years old and die, laying bricks, and they've built some good things, but they really didn't have the life they want. And what we're really talking about is being able to understand what's valuable to us and what we can, how we assess those things, and then who we can get around us that can help us see a more important path and get ourselves in positions to really excel and flourish and work with people that are like-minded and that are going to be able to help us and help themselves and really just create more good in the world. I don't know, Jeff, what are your thoughts on where we are at the moment and kind of wrapping things up maybe today?
I mean, it's a great time to wrap it up because his introduction was so damn long. I
have something that I want to read to you guys. When this happened after I met with Richard, I got to find it. I called him and I said, okay, you asked for these things. And Richard's, he's this very paternal, kind, generous of spirit man. He's just this wonderful, lovely man. And he's the publisher. And I remember that in that first meeting that we had, they said, we want to help you to achieve your vision. We want to be there for you. We want to be your support team. So just know that we're here. And they offered me a place to stay. They any way that they could help support me in this. And so I said, well, I'm gonna live where I'm living, and then it's like a 10-minute drive to their home, and I need a place to go where it's my office where I can go to work. So I will go to your house, and I will go down. They have a basement in their home, and it's beautifully decorated. And there's one room, it's got these beautiful paintings. And so I wanted to go in that room. I just love the space and the energy and all of that. And when I went over there to do the key exchange for the very first time, I said, I really need to talk to you. He said, okay. So when I sat down, I said, okay, you told me that my life is going to change tremendously because you're going to have this incredibly successful franchise, and you're going to have this movie, you're going to have all this stuff, and we're going to guide you the whole way. And I said, you ask for this thing, you envision this thing, and all of these things keep coming into your life that point to that. And it's a little scary. And he said, do you mind if I take notes? And I said, no, that's fine. So he was asking me questions, and he was doing all this really cool stuff. And he wrote down, he gave me a little piece of paper, and I have a picture of the paper so that I can revisit it. And this was on August 5th, 2017. And September 5th. He said, the keys, you are who you are at your core, and that won't change because you're very solid in who you are. And you have to remember that you are a messenger, and you are a servant in service to ... So to your vision and to what we're creating together. And once you surrender that, you will become it. You will embrace it. All you have to do is keep showing up. And then at the bottom, he wrote, get ready for a fun ride when you create the space for the universe to support you. And I just think that's such a cool idea. The end. Bye.
Yeah. This was great, Mick. It really was. It makes me think about so many different things. And Fletch, you have such deep questions. I'm not going to sleep tonight.
Wait, I don't need. It's because it's Valentine's Day, Jeff.
Oh,
I got my wife a bike.
Uh-huh.
Is that crazy? Is that a weird Valentine's Day gift?
As long as it wasn't an exercise bike. That might not work.
I got her a vacuum. Is that a bad idea? I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. That's funny.
Okay, so awesome, Mick. I can't wait to have another chat with you in like 6 to 8 months, whenever this goes and the big marketing push goes. And I can't wait to sit down and I don't know, it's not closing the loop, but sort of closing the loop on this particular venture you've been going through, and close that book and push it out there into the universe and sell a billion copies of the thing. Tomorrow, I think I got Phil Goldfine for us to do another one of our Masters of Possibilities roundtables. He's going to leave. He's hard to pin down. What's your guys' vibe out there tomorrow? You guys busy?
I have a 9 a.m. and I'm supposed to fly to San Francisco. So I've got a couple things going on, but I could do something 10-ish, 10 or 11.
I'll shoot for 10-ish.
Okay, that's Pacific time. How about you, Fletch?
Tomorrow's Thursday.
Yeah,
that'll work.
Okay, I'll confirm it. He's being kind of elusive, but sort of pencil that in, because the way Phil works is I'll walk in, I'll be like, are we doing an interview? And I'll be like, where's the heads up, man? So I kind of want to do it in that Michael Beckwith format where he's in his chair. We'll get the camera set up and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And then we'll still do this. It's so cool that we get to interview one of our own, though.
I know. It's awesome.
Cool.
So cool.
And then, Fletch, we got to do you as well, man. We got to sit down.
No, that'll be way too long because I like to talk about myself too much.
Well, we'll keep it structured.
Hey, Fletch, I really want to talk to you about where to allocate my resources for the marketing stuff.
Okay.
Because I mean, you heard of this is an investigative phone call with this guy, which I think it sounds really cool. I have great ideas about how to build a website and interact. Not how to. What I want, kind of a loose idea that having an interactive website where people would visit and sign up, and then there's different things for it. I have no idea where to go to get all that information. I don't know where I will come up with the money. I don't know if it's something I need to do today. Is it an evolution? I have 100 questions about that. So love to spend some time on the phone with you thinking about that.
Schedule something there, Mick. That I'd be happy to share everything I can and get everything hooked up that I can take care of, and round people up that do things I don't. Yeah. So yeah, that'd be cool.
I should probably get on the phone with David Mills and just kind of give him an update and then say, so what should I do next? He's Yoda. He's fully Yoda.
He is total. So speaking of that, Fletch, are you gonna set that up, the David Mills one?
I'd like to.
We want to start doing one of these a week, right? I mean, if we keep the pressure on, we'll have quite a nice.
Oh, okay. So hey, Mick, I didn't talk to you about this. I did, Jeff, just briefly. Actually, I didn't even with you, Jeff. I talked to Jordan, who's my business partner here in town. So we've got some like big name kind of people like Mick and and Bob and Beckwith and maybe Hulk Hogan and Christina Applegate and some names that people know, right? What kind of hit me when I was talking to you the other day, Jeff, is just that I'm sitting in front of 200, 300, 800 people who have changed their life by applying some principles and some strategy to make use of technology and knowledge that's outside of what's typically taught in schools and churches and things like that, right? These are kind of like an extension of like the OMG earnings reports of people who are just kind of in their job and they were at a certain crossroads and they went looking for a solution to open up more possibilities in their life, right? And we play off this possibility thing. And these are people that in a certain way, I'll have an easier time talking to and interviewing. I don't want to make it, about SEO necessarily, because it's more about the decision and more about the thinking that goes into being able to make a choice and then put the energy into it takes to get the result, right? And so, we've got, all I got to do is talk to Mike or any of the people in the Facebook group. Mick, this, a little more clearly than Jeff, but we can line one of these up every day, Jeff. That's no exaggeration. We can line one up every day for the next year if we wanted to.
And our minds are blown.
Yeah. And these are people, some of these people were homeless. Some of these people were, one of these guys' houses exploded and blew him and his wife out a window while they were holding their kids, and they were able to rebuild. Like, these are things that you couldn't even write. No one would believe it unless it was a real person just sitting there talking. And that was the thing that I was like, oh, we have a show here. We have a show because it's not people with info products that want to sell them and help people. It's just a bunch of people that change their life. That's this thing. What does it take to decide and change? That's what this can be. This can represent that. And obviously we can sell a shit ton of things and frameworks that work and get David more involved in everything else. But we literally have everything we need right now with the relationships we have, the skills we have, to get this thing to the place where it's like where we've got the book done. And when somebody asks us what we're doing, hey, we've got this show. It's not on TV. I don't know where it's going to be. Maybe right now it's on the internet. Maybe it's on Netflix. Maybe it's on a network. I don't know, but watch a few of these and tell me what you think.
Now, hey, by the way, I know the president of Netflix now.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm rejuiced about this, and
awesome.
And
I'd love to hear it.
And where things can we can just build. You know, the breaks will come when they come, but we just continue focusing on something that's valuable that we know is going to be along the way, which is getting the content. When we're going to need that content at some point in time. Let's just build it.
Done. I can set up. I'll set up Phil. If you can, why don't you set up a couple? Reach whatever ones. Let's start with a couple. Let's try to get another one in the can next week.
Yeah.
Right. I think once a week enough. I mean,
let's not.
Here, come on.
Yeah, I think once a week for a couple weeks, and let's just play it by ear. I mean, the decent thing about working with the people that we have in OMG is that we're all used to working online and jumping on a laptop and being able to do a call or a video or whatever. So it doesn't take nearly as much preparation as it might with somebody that's not as comfortable and familiar in this space. So let's just see where it goes. But I think we're in a really good place because people obviously like to talk about things they've done well and successes they've had, and you know, being able to make some sense of the story they've had and the path they've walked, and you know, whether it turns into a 5-minute, you know, piece or hour and a half or 2-hour piece.
Well, 1 hour piece with a 1 hour introduction.
Yeah. That's Mick flipping you off, Jeff.
That was a great interview.
It was really fun to do, and it was really fun to talk about because it's interesting to put words to it, you know, and think about it when you're thinking specifically about it. And then also, you know, like how you pull stuff out of people. It's great. So I'm going to get on the road. And I love it because it's right in time for traffic. I love traffic. It's going to be so much fun.
Well, you could just, if we had an app, a Masters of Possibility app, you could just turn on internet radio and just stream good stuff on your way home. We're not that far from it. We're this far.
That's right.
I'm happy the band's back together, boys. I'm going to go and celebrate some Valentine stuff.
Bike. Go get your wife. Make her ride that bike.
I got to hear how this goes next time, Jeff. We're going to ask you about it.
All right, so tomorrow we'll be together at 10-ish.
Yeah, plan on it, and then I'll let you know.
Okay, cool, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Take care.